Hey there, I'm Maaz, and I am incredibly excited to share a wealth building strategy that's a complete game changer. This isn't just about figuring out where to put your next dollar today, it is a full-on roadmap with massive compounding effects that will echo all the way through your retirement. We are diving deep into the three-bucket tax strategy and breaking it down by age. Grab a drink, settle in, and let's get into how this actually works. When you are building toward financial independence, there are really three distinct buckets you can put money into and pull money out of. First up is your tax-free bucket. This includes things like your Roth accounts or your health savings accounts. Then you have the tax-deferred bucket, which covers your pre-tax 401k, traditional IRAs, and other employer-sponsored retirement plans. Finally, there is the after-tax bucket, which basically covers your standard after-tax brokerage accounts or trust accounts. Each of these operates a little differently, but they are all incredibly important for structuring a solid financial life. I always recommend that people track their net worth to see exactly where their money sits across these three buckets. Knowing where to deploy your next dollar is half the battle, and that's exactly why we look at this strategy through the lens of different decades. A 20-year-old is going to look at these buckets very differently than someone in their 30s, 40s, or 50s. To show you exactly how this plays out in the real world, let's look at a case study featuring a dedicated investor named Manny. Manny is what I like to call a financial mutant. He starts investing 25% of his gross income right at age 25 and keeps it going all the way until he hits 65. Let's assume his starting salary is $50,000 a year, and he gets an annual raise of 5%. Because he is incredibly disciplined, he makes sure to secure his full employer match first, meaning if he puts in 6%, his employer matches with another 3%. Manny is going to prioritize a Roth 401k over a pre-tax 401k until his combined marginal tax rate crosses from 25% over to 30%. He's also going to use the backdoor Roth strategy when necessary, but we'll assume he cannot do a mega backdoor Roth. To keep things realistic, we are adjusting his rate of return as he gets older. At age 25, we assume a 9.5% return, and that rate drops by 0.1% every single year as he moves into more conservative investments. By the time he is 30, it's 9%. At 40, it's 8%, and by the time he retires, it scales down to 5.5%. Oh, and because he is so on top of his game, he already has a fully funded emergency fund and no high-interest debt before we even start counting his 25% investment rate. Let's start at the very beginning with your 20s. In this decade, the bucket that deserves the absolute most attention and love is your tax-free bucket. This is easily the most exciting decade for retirement planning because the dollars you save at this stage will likely be the most valuable dollars in your entire portfolio by the time you retire. They have the most time to grow. We want you contributing to a Roth IRA here, even if you can't fully max it out yet. Once you grab that free employer match money, start putting whatever you can into that Roth. We love Roth accounts because they offer low fees, tax-free growth, and ultimately tax-free distributions. Imagine being a seven-figure tax-free millionaire simply because you prioritized this bucket early on. Another hidden perk of a Roth IRA is that you can always access your direct contributions tax-free and penalty-free in an absolute emergency, though I never want you to actually do that unless your back is completely against the wall. Roth accounts are not the only tax-free powerhouses you might have access to in your 20s. If you are covered under a high-deductible health plan, you should absolutely look into a health savings account or HSA. I tell people all the time that HSAs are practically magical because they offer a triple tax advantage. Your contributions give you a tax deduction on the front end, the money grows tax-deferred, and if you use it for qualified medical expenses, you pull it out completely tax-free. In fact, if your employer lets you deduct HSA contributions directly from your paycheck, you might even skip payroll taxes on that money too.
For most people in their 20s, the vast majority of their personal savings should go into these tax-free buckets. Your tax-deferred bucket probably won't grow a ton at this stage on your own, but remember that employer match money usually goes directly into a pre-tax traditional account, so that bucket is still growing quietly in the background without you having to stress over it. You also don't need to worry much about the after-tax bucket yet, as long as you have your solid emergency fund parked safely on the side. Let's check in on Manny at the end of his 20s to see how this discipline paid off. By age 29, after just 4 years of diligent saving, Manny's portfolio is worth almost $91,000. The massive chunk of that is sitting pretty in his tax-free bucket. His income has grown to just under $61,000, meaning his investments already exceed a full year of his salary. He's getting his employer match, maxing his Roth IRA, and pushing hard on his HSA. Even though he didn't start until 25 because he was clearing out debt and building his emergency fund, he's already on his way to becoming a prodigious accumulator of wealth. Now let's talk about the next stage, your 30s. For most folks, the 30s are a unique and sometimes chaotic time. This is what many call the messy middle. It's a stage where life feels incredibly heavy because you often have neither disposable income left over nor disposable time. You're likely getting stretched in 1,000 different directions. Maybe you're buying a house, starting a family, or moving up the career ladder. It becomes so easy to feel overwhelmed and let your foot off the gas, but I'm here to tell you to stay the course. The days might feel long, but the years are incredibly short. Keep your focus and respect the financial discipline you already built. There are specific tax maneuvers to think about in your 30s as your career gains traction. You might start making enough money that you're no longer legally allowed to make direct contributions to a Roth IRA due to income phase-outs. If that happens, don't panic. As long as you don't have other traditional IRA assets clouding the waters, you can execute the backdoor Roth strategy, which is where you put money into a non-deductible traditional IRA and immediately convert it to a Roth. This is also the decade where your tax-deferred bucket might suddenly become your best friend. In your 20s, you were likely in a low tax bracket, making the Roth option a no-brainer. But in your 30s, if your combined marginal federal and state tax rate crosses over that 30% mark, the math shifts. Putting $1 into a pre-tax 401k suddenly saves you 30 cents in taxes right now. That's an immediate, guaranteed return on your money that is very hard to pass up. Let's look at Manny at the end of his 30s to see how this discipline paid off. By age 39, after just 4 years of diligent saving, Manny's portfolio is worth almost $530,000. He has roughly $466,000 sitting in tax-free accounts and about $64,000 in tax-deferred accounts from his employer matches and growth. By age 40, a great benchmark is to have about 3 times your annual income saved. Manny has smashed right through that. He's pushing the upper limits of hyper-accumulation, and a massive part of that success was simply giving his money the element of time. Then we step into the 40s. I love this decade because it's usually the first time in your life where it doesn't feel like you're just desperately trying to make ends meet. You suffered through your 20s to build a foundation, you weathered the storm of the messy middle in your 30s, and now in your 40s, things really start to come together. You're likely entering your peak earning years. If you did the heavy lifting early on, this is where you start feeling the massive dividends of that past discipline. It's a beautiful feeling. Even if you're a late bloomer, don't get discouraged. Your 40s still have a ton of compounding oomph left if you're playing catch-up. In your 40s, your tax-free strategies are likely locked in and running on autopilot. But this is the time to really scrutinize that 401k contribution every year. Should you be doing Roth or pre-tax? You're likely leaning heavily on pre-tax savings now to shield your high income from taxes. However, I always give a warning here. Do not become retirement rich and life poor. You've been working hard for a long time. This is the decade where I want to see you paying cash for cars and avoiding mindless lifestyle debt. This is also where the third bucket, the after-tax bucket, finally starts getting some serious love. Up until now, you were pouring everything into retirement sheltered accounts. But as you look toward the future, an after-tax brokerage account provides a crucial bridge of liquidity. If you want to retire early or simply need chunks of accessible cash for big life moments without triggering retirement penalties, This is the bucket that makes it possible. Looking at Manny at the end of his 40s is absolutely wild. He's been executing this plan for 25 years straight. His income is now up to $161,000, and his total portfolio value is sitting at a staggering $1.7 million. He is officially a multi-millionaire in the making. Interestingly, because he prioritized it so early on, almost $1.5 million of that is sitting in his tax-free bucket. His tax-deferred bucket holds around $200,000, and he just barely started building that after-tax bridge with a few $1,000s. He hit millionaire status right in his late 40s, which perfectly aligns with the data on when most everyday millionaires actually cross that threshold. He has officially reached the point where his money is working just as hard as he is. As you transition into your 50s and look toward the horizon, your focus naturally shifts to fine-tuning the endgame. When we talk to actual retirees, they almost always say the exact same thing regarding their buckets. I wish I had put more money into the tax-free bucket. They always wish it was bigger.